Item 8 usually begins with its own little table of contents. Now you're going to get the 3 financial statements, the consolidated statement of financials that I mentioned for you to pull out, but you'll also have notes to those consolidated statements. So everything that you had a question of in item 7 should be further clarified in item 8. And you're going to just read those financial statements, which you've already looked through and made notes from item 7, and you're going to look through item 8 and see, especially, usually it's in like section 8 of item 8, if things are further clarified there. And if they're not, you definitely want to take note of that situation. Now, one of the other things that's in item 8 is who was the accountant that signed off on it. Now, there's a few different accounting firms that remain that do all of the big company accounting statements. And if it's not one of those big 5 type firms, you'll definitely want to take note of that. That's quite unusual. But also, I like to try to keep track of who the accountants are, if they're all in one industry, that sort of thing. I've found that over the years, when you end up with an issue in one accountant, then you kind of just want to look and see if other people within the industry were treating it the same way. Typically, this is no longer an issue. There have been a couple periods in financial history, Enron, for example, where you really did have to review all the financial statements that accountant put out. Occasionally, there can be industry-specific ways that people are handling things, and it's not necessarily good or bad, it's just something to note. So, for example, if you're doing like mining and the accountant tends to be Deloitte and Touche, and then suddenly you see like E&Y, and then you notice that the way that the disclosures is done is quite different. It's just something to take a note of. Over the years, it will make more sense, but it's not something that I would say is the focus of this particular, I'm trying to learn how to read the 10K thing. But just take note of it, and then over the years, it will make more sense why you're taking note of it. Because it turns out that a lot of the disclosures from one accounting firm tend to kind of map out across the industry, or a lot of the accounting practices of one tend to map out across the industry. And then occasionally there will be something that occurs in that industry where it's kind of good to know in the back of your head who's doing what. Now, item 8 may have a lot of definitions in it. It turns out that the first time you read these, it's great. Write down the things that you maybe don't understand, because they are absolutely just definitions. But over the years, you really just almost fast read this section just to make sure that they haven't used some crazy new way of defining things. Mostly this doesn't change. It's literally copied from 10K to 10K. So after you read it for the first time, these definitions, you're not necessarily going to have the same level of focus to read it a second time.